From the lobbies or vestibules of Manhattan to the rooftops of Brooklyn, this is Good Morning Super, a podcast that shines a light on the people who keep New York City's buildings up and running day to day. Every other week, your co-hosts, Peter Gresh, Roberto Cardono, Mimi O'Connor, and me, James Park, sit down with supers, porters, property managers, to talk shop, share stories, and reveal what it really takes to keep the city moving, one building at a time. Peter Gresh has 47 years in building operations, having been a doorman, handyman, chief engineer, and finally resident manager of a luxury high-rise in New York City. He has taught for Local 32 BJ for 15 years. Peter Gresh is also the founder of the Superintendent's Technical Association, an association driven to train building supers, resident managers throughout the years. Roberto Cardono has been a resident manager who has worked for 20 years in the industry, and he himself has worked up from a porter to a resident manager, building superintendent. Recently, he's worked as an engineer in the New York City hotel field. Mimi O'Connor is a writer and editor specializing in real estate and culture, and is a longtime contributor to the New York City real estate site, Brick on the Ground. Okay. Hi, how's everyone doing? Good morning.
Good morning.
Great. Good morning.
Good morning.
Peter, you often say...
Oh, yes. Good morning, supers.
Okay, great. How's everyone doing?
Everybody's good. I'm good.
Okay,
I'm
great.
good.
Great.
And not too good. I had to get a dog. I got so many tenant complaints. Now the dog is running after the complaints.
Wait, you really
Not
got
the
a dog?
tenants?
Okay.
That was,
Hey, but now that you're retired from the field, you can get a dog. I mean, you could have gotten a dog.
yeah,
before.
we always had dogs in the past. So, yeah, it was. But now that we're retired, we like to travel more. So the dog becomes just difficult to deal with if you're traveling.
Well, that depends on the size of the dog, right? Is it
Well, it
small?
depends. We always had small dogs. I never liked a small dog, but small dogs are Manhattan apartment living suitable.
Well, talking about dogs and superintendents and resident managers, are you allowed to bring a dog with you as you?
Yep. Most buildings are pet friendly, dog friendly, and there's normally no problem as long as there's a pet policy that allows the dogs. The board or the owner never really complains about super having a dog.
Gotcha. We did have an incident back years ago when a part-time super brought in a dog without the board knowing. And what he did, and it was a pet-free building, a dog-free building. You can have a cat. And what ended up happening was that he snuck it into the basement of the building. And it was a puppy. It was a golden retriever puppy.
Oh,
and
nice dogs.
well, it was cute, but it was extremely energetic and rambunctious.
Really?
It barked.
Yeah.
And then what ended up happening was that people started to hear the barking because in the West Village you have a closed off courtyard.
Yep.
And that bark echoes through
That goes
the
through the area.
Right. So this is a good segue into what we're intending to talk about today, which is mistakes that supers make when they first get into a building. So
Actually, one of my first residentials, we did have a dog. It was a Rottweiler. It was only a 9-month-old, but he was already 120 pounds and huge. And he would be in my office. That building was a rental going co-op on an eviction plan. So we had a few people that were extremely angry. So the dog was in my office, and the lady comes to complain. I said, "Don't tell me, tell it to the dog." And then she walked out. So,
what's it called? What's a eviction plan, by the way? Sorry, you said
way back in the 80s, buildings that were rentals had the choice to go co-ops.
Okay.
But if the building went on an eviction plan, which meant that it would go 100% co-op, and those people that did not buy their apartment would have to move out.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow.
This building was, I think, one of the last on an eviction plan. So there was a lot of angry people.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
a lot of people made money because if you didn't buy, you still had the rights to buy. So you could sell your rights to somebody else to buy the apartment and then make an agreement like to move out in 2 years or 1 year or whatever.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So this is all the stuff behind the scenes that was happening when a lot of buildings are converting to co-ops.
Yep.
Back in the
Back
80s.
in the day, yeah. But
Yep.
today, I think there is no more eviction plan. I think that was ruled out.
Okay.
It was 300 apartments, and it was. And the apartments were going for. This is in the Greenwich, not Greenwich, in the Gramercy Park area. The apartments were going between $15,000 and $25,000.
Wow.
Yeah, we had
Okay.
money back then.
Okay. So going back to the topic, the purpose of today's episode is about maybe giving a hand to those supers who are just starting in the industry. You know, they get their first job, and next thing you know, they're come into a building and they're doing things that can maybe like take a hit on their credibility or maybe hurt their reputation. So we want to kind of touch upon that today. One of the things that I just thinking about some of the things that can happen, there are different supers out there. So there's different scenarios. There's resident managers, and then there's working supers, supers that come into a building as part-time. So I guess there's different categories of
Yes.
supers and different categories of mistakes that you can make. But I think we can just talk about in general any of them. But,
Sometimes the mistakes are the same all the way around.
well, I was hoping that maybe we can get your take on what mistakes you have made and whether you're willing to.
The first mistake was becoming a super to begin with. Yes, I could definitely tell you some mistakes. One mistake, which I do regret, usually I don't regret them, was that I didn't make allies, meaning you get hired into a building, and let's say it had a board, and I didn't really pay attention to the board. I just ran the building, and that was it. And that kind of like distanced the board. And that was a mistake. I think super should, if there's 5 people on the board, it behooves you to get to know at least 3 of them. And by getting to know them and they know you, in ways they can support you or come to your aid if you need it. But if you don't get to that kind of a relationship, then you're on your own. So that's a regret. And another regret was with managing agents. But I've been around for such a long time. All the managing agents I know are long and dead or retired. So the ones I did keep in touch with, they're gone. But the last 10 years, I didn't keep in touch with those agents. And that's another mistake. You should always don't burn the bridge. Keep in touch. Keep in touch.
Okay.
So how do you know who's a good prospect for getting to know them? How do you get to know them?
Currently, I know people. I can read people. Back then, I was just a young person. But you get to know them by, talking. and what they have to say and how they say it, you'll find out who is the right person and not the right person. Those that are not interested would you would get the feeling that this person is not interested, and you could just move on to the next one. But it's by gut feeling.
Right. So who seems approachable?
Who's the approachable? The one that ignores you, the one that keeps you at a distance.
Right, right. I'm saying those who seem approachable, you kind of chat them up and.
Yep. Approach them. You don't want to get to be their buddy, but you or friends, but you do want to. What's the word? You do want to.
Schmooze with them?
No, not smooth with them.
Well, create a relationship, create a connection.
Yeah, you got to let them in a little bit. Not
talking
keep
relationship.
them out. Yeah. You know, you talk about their families. You'll get to know who they are and what they do. And, you know, you can talk about other things than the building. And that's how you build the rapport.
That's actually a common mistake that new supers make. They want to get friendly with the building. You know, once you find out who the board members are, of course, this is a people business, right?
Yes.
So people get chummy, and they may start to take things to a friendship level, and I think that is where it could lead to a serious misunderstanding.
You have to draw the line there.
And that could create issues in the future. So you got to learn how to.
You're the boss. You're not their friend. Doesn't mean you can't be friendly. You're just not their friend. Same goes for the staff. You're in charge. You're the boss. You're not their friend. And the same thing with residents. You're in charge. You're not their friend. Doesn't mean you're not friendly. Doesn't mean you're not approachable. But you're not going to go and have dinner at their house. You're not going to go out after work and have a drink. That kind of thing. That's becoming now more familiar with somebody than friendly with somebody.
Yeah. How about taking a step back? How about giving them your number? I know there's a bunch of there's a line of thought that says you shouldn't give your number to anyone at the building. First-time supers often do that, your own personal number.
Yep.
And then often they add to that, like, call me anytime, and next thing you know, you have your phone calls.
Yeah,
like,
those are supers that want to be liked.
right.
But the only person who should have your cell number or your home number is the managing agent and maybe one person on the board, if not the board. Other than that, no one gets it. I never gave it out, other than to a board who asked and for the managing agent. And, of course, my staff.
Right, of course. your staff you should have on speed dial.
And they're not to give the number to anyone.
Yeah, no,
They're not to give it to anyone.
they've been pretty good.
You know, on the part-time side, because Spark Super is a building that works with a lot of part-time buildings, part-time super buildings. You have supers that take buildings, near each other. So buildings may be like
Easy to access.
easy to access. Yeah, and what may happen, this is something that happens to the best of the supers, is they end up sharing supplies between them.
Yeah.
And that's or using the hose, the water the supply from one building, and then using it the different building next door to wash the sidewalk, things of that sort. Especially when you don't have a hose, like a hose cock in front of both buildings, you may have it on front of one building, and then you don't have it on the front of another next door, which you may be also maintaining or serving as a super, and so you may end up washing. So I mean that's also one of the mistakes. Often people think it's supers may think it's harmless. Oh, it's just water, or it's just a couple garbage bags here and there. But just the optics of it can, the appearance of it can make the board of one building feel like you're using the supplies of one building to serve the other. Yeah, and that's no good.
Yeah, you need to not share supplies. The main reason too is, how can you assure me that the bags are going to the building next door and not going to your pocket, your home, your in-laws' house?
Yeah.
Same thing with bulbs. So supplies should be kept separate. Sharing the water should not be a big deal, because it's in the spirit of the community or the neighborhood.
That's interesting.
It's a spirit, and so if I use your water to help keep my sidewalk clean, it's only generates a good
Yeah.
for the neighborhood more than not. So, maybe I borrow your water and then I'll pay you back by shoveling your snow once or twice.
Yeah.
So that kind of a thing shouldn't be a big deal.
I think it's when he goes into materials such as floor tiles,
Yeah, light
floor
bulb,
tiles,
light
or
bulb, light bulb.
bags of salt, bulky materials. That's when they may, frown upon it.
If the building next door, and it's happened that they've ran out of salt and they didn't get a delivery, and we've had, we always had 40 bags at a time in my building, and the building next door would say, "Oh, we ran out of salt. Can we borrow yours?" I said, "Okay." Now, can you take? You need 3-4 bags? Yes. Sign the piece of paper. You borrowed 3-4 bags, and you promised to pay it back.
Replace it. That's right.
And that's
Sign off on it.
because that's also in the spirit of the neighborhood. Otherwise, you don't want to piss off the building next to you either. One day they'll be able to save your building.
Yeah.
You know.
You can't,
Yeah.
emergency
Otherwise,
is an emergency.
let it burn. Here's for those bags you didn't give me.
No, because sometimes you got to fight the fire from one building to the next.
Yep.
They do that too.
Roberto, how about you? Any when you were first starting off, what kind of mistakes did you make that you can
I'll tell you,
help other supers?
I had a problem, and it was with the managing agent. And for whatever reason, he just didn't touch base with me. I made alliances with out of the 5 members, I made alliances with like 3 of them. Got along with me quite well. In fact, one of the board members got me the job as the super. But from what I understand, the supers they had previously, they always had complications with the managing agent. And as soon as I got aboard, the same scenario. And we were banging heads too much, and it became too much of a problem where I had to get along with the board but not get along with the managing agent until he convinced them that he can get someone for less money. And they let me go for that reason. But I myself felt that the building was very well kept. I stood on top of it. I didn't have any complications. But the managing agent, me and him just couldn't hit it off no matter how hard.
So what would you do differently to?
I would have tried to made a stronger effort to win him over. I think I spoke to him, but not enough, and I should have communicated a little more closer. Again, but sometimes it doesn't work that way. I had a friend of mine that was a new super, and he was a young guy, maybe about 28, and he was very popular in the building with the ladies, and it preceded him. A lot of the ladies started to talk to him and flirt with him, and the husbands got back to the board and the management, and he was let go. So these things do occur, and he's a young guy. Good. He was a good speaker. Managing the building wasn't really his cup of tea. I think the building was too overwhelming for him. Maybe a smaller building, but the ladies they were just constantly in his office complaining about anything just to hold a conversation.
So
The husbands didn't want that.
okay. So his mistake was being so good looking and charming.
And too flirtatious. He was a bit flirtatious.
Okay.
He was.
I had a similar problem, Roberto, and but my problem was I just arrived from Australia, so I had an Australian accent, a strong one, and the females would go gaga over my accent. So
I go gaga over your accent.
Yeah, they love. Oh my God, is that Australian? Oh, I love the accent. So I quickly, within a year, learned to lose most of the accent. So
I think, yeah.
Time out.
yeah.
You, at one point in your life, had an Australian accent?
Oh yeah.
What?
Well, he has some.
I-
He has one
I-
now.
I-
I mean, I find it. I also find it endearing. I mean, I'm not joking. It's good. It's nice to have a.
Excuse me.
You know, Australian accents are pretty cool.
Yep, but you know, I had a real good one, and I was only 19 at the time too, so it pops in and out of my language. You might pick up on it now and then, but I learnt within a year to suppress it.
Why? What was the
Wow.
purpose of suppressing it? Just to kind of integrate into.
It didn't belong in the goo goo gaga with the girls, and you know, I won't go the flirtation. I just, you know, while I felt good being, you know, getting flirted, but you know, it just wasn't professional. And also, I was married, so that didn't go too well either.
Right. I just don't find. I mean, these are having an accent. It's definitely not a mistake.
It-
But I guess using it to
Gain.
maybe artificially gain some traction with the people who you're beholden to
Well,
might become a problem later on.
and, accents. If you have a heavy accent where people are having a little difficulty understanding your English, I would definitely recommend going and getting a better, getting rid of the, let's say, the Spanish accent and getting more of the American accent, so people can understand you better. That's. But
Okay, how do I do that?
I don't know.
Duolingo?
No, I think the more English you hear and the more English you speak, a lot of times, and I have friends, and at their home, they speak nothing but Spanish, and then they come to work, and their English isn't so good, and because they're not practicing the English. But it's not for me to say I'm not a professional. But all I'm saying is that most people might find having an accent, whether it's Spanish or French or whatever, hard to understand you. And you being the super need to be clear.
How about this that I see? I'm just going to jump for a second to a situation where a new resident manager comes into a building. They end up, they have a staff there. Let's say a certain doorman, porter, handyman staff, and they come in changing the rules or, kind of getting. I guess you can call it guns blazing, throwing the whip down. Would you? We see that. I mean, I've seen that quite a bit, but without talking
Yeah,
about the outcome of
still
that, what
do.
do you think about that?
It's stupid.
I think it's ridiculous.
I think it's stupid when he takes over. First thing he should do is change the locks to wherever that things were locked. Supply room, boiler room, so forth, because you do not know who has a copy of the key. Then once you change those locks, then you can give out the key to those people that need access to those rooms. Then also you shouldn't start making waves. You should spend a week, 2 weeks observing the staff, see what they do, when they're doing it, how they're doing it. And even if you see somebody doing something wrong, unless it's really critical, don't butt in. Let them do it. And then once you've had time and once people got a little used to you, then you can start, you go to Harry, the way you're mopping the floor is not really good. This is the proper way to do it. This is a better way to do it. And you show them. But if you catch Harry doing it, if in your first 2 days and you're correcting him, he's going to take it the wrong way. Again, your job is not to be liked, but it's not also to be hated. So you got to find softly, gently, you break into it. That's the more professional way. Although there are supers that would disagree. It's my way or the highway.
Roberto, have you had a situation where
I had one that was ex-Marine, and he was trying to run the building like it's a boot camp.
All right, love it.
This guy was hardcore.
Wait, in the beginning, you mean what?
First week he was there, he handed out letters to everybody.
What did the letter
I
say?
checked all your records. You only have 2 sick days left, and if you take any after these 2 days, you'll get a letter followed by a warning, then disciplinary action. First week we met this guy. We weren't even sure if we pronounced his last name right, but that's the way he was, and I noticed he started taking that up also with the board. I think he tried to do that too. Tried to like bully his way and get his way.
He was a bully.
He was a bully. He was a bully super from the very beginning.
As the Australians would say, bully for him.
So
And how did that work out for him?
it didn't work out at all because what happened was he saved the building a lot of money, and then at the end of the year, he was asking them if he would get a percentage of the money he saved back, and they told him, "No, we don't work like that here."
Wow. Okay.
And they told him, "No, we don't work like that here. Thank you for saving us the money." Immediately, he did an about face,
Right. Right.
and then he
Yeah.
started becoming a little more relaxed with the employees. But the employees now are keeping a distance because they just can't, trust this guy at all. So he left the building, but he was running it like a boot camp.
Yeah. Actually, that sounds like I mean, it almost sounds like Peter. You agree with that tactic or that style of leadership,
It depends on the need.
right?
Depends on the need.
I would say that too, because you have some employees that do need that type of discipline because they're always testing the waters.
By the way, you mentioned that what eventually got him terminated was he asked for
At the end of the year,
a
he saved
reward
the
or
building.
bonus, right.
He
I-
saved the building money,
Yeah.
and he was requesting if he can get something back.
Yeah, that actually leads me to think that there's another mistake that new supers make, which is changing the terms of your agreement after you get there. So let's say, let's say you get there, a salary is supposed to be a certain amount, you guys agree, everyone agrees to be on the same page about what the compensation or bonus is, and then later on you come in and then you try to change the terms of that for one reason or the other. And even if it's justifiable, even if it's something you earnestly, honestly feel that you should have been, you should be compensated more, or something should be changed. It's something that probably is one of the things that could most rankle a board member is when you come in and say, "I want extra money for this," because I guess, Peter, your job is to, I would imagine that a resident manager's job is to save money for the building, right? You mentioned that on the other shows where you said,
Yep. That's a super or a resident manager.
or resident manager, and so that's your job. But
Yep.
then when you're asking for a percentage of that,
Yeah, it's stupid. But
yeah,
the also you're going back on the agreement you made. Therefore, that shows a light into your character and other things. So the best way is that, and as I advise supers, don't show. I'm probably going to regret saying this. Don't show 100% of what you can do the first 5-6 months, because then you're going to get stuck and you're going to own it. Show them what you could do, but keep a reserve. Keep a reserve, and then, as you get accepted into the building and perhaps get a raise, then you do more or show more. But
that's interesting. That's a cool angle because that is actually. Sometimes you really have talented resident managers and supers come in and they
exploit
they
themselves.
do everything. I mean, they wow the board, but what ends up happening is they end up setting us. No, I would say this in this particular case. He ended up starting a lot of projects, wowing the board, but then getting accepted to another position, probably like 6-7 months later, and leaving those projects half finished. And I think that was something that probably would be equal to burning a bridge, because then you can't, you know, use that board for a reference, because they'll say, well, he left us, you know.
It's. I'll give you a good example. Super I know went into a building. He was good at plumbing, and he did plumbing repairs, plumbing leaks. Then started repairing risers, and I told him, "Don't do it. Don't do it. That first of all, it's against city codes, and second of all, don't do it." But he did it. He wanted to show how good he was. At the end of the year, he got a very modest bonus, and he was upset. He says, "I saved them thousands and thousands in plumbing alone." I says, "I told you, don't do it." So a couple of months later, another leak occurred, and he didn't do it. He called a plumber, and the board wanted to know why he didn't do it. And he said, "Well, you know, you did it in the past. You did it before. You know, you own it now." So that's why I say don't.
Yeah.
And another mistake supers make is they overpromise. They promise too much. They don't know how to say no, and they overpromise. You know.
That's important to learn to say no.
Yeah.
It is very important in the field.
So how do you do that? If I'm really wanting to impress a board member and I'm trying to seem, you know, flexible, how do you say no, we can't do that, and still, you know, stay in their good graces?
It depends on what they're asking, because you can also refer to the building code says that the plumbing needs to be done by plumbing, or that needs to be done by electrician, and I will not
Touch it.
break the code. Also, insurance. You know, your insurance policy may not cover that kind of work if I do it, because I'm not a plumber, and if the pipe leaks or breaks 3 days later again, you know, there could be problems. So that's one way of getting out of it. But you don't want to say no all the time. But even tenants,
Right.
tenants or residents are requesting something, and you got to say, "I'm sorry." You know, building rules. Building rules.
That's a whole bunch of stuff there. I mean, that you talked about is doing work. You know, how much to be helpful to the shareholders and the residents in the building. So everything seems to be coming back to the idea that you got to manage, you got to set the expectations of everyone
boundaries.
properly.
You got to know what their expectations are also.
Yeah.
And then
That's true. If they had someone, if you're coming into a building where the previous superintendent did a lot of the work in house,
you're going to have a problem.
you're gonna have a problem. And then you know, went in to fix things for the residents for free, or
Yep,
you know,
yep.
then of course you can hit issues.
I had an issue. Took over a building. "Oh, but the super used to fix my washing machine." I says, "Yeah, I don't do appliances." "Oh, but the super always used to fix my TV." "I don't do TVs." And after a couple of these, I realized I'm in the wrong building.
Is that supers do that? Is that like with an eye on the end of year,
Yep.
like Christmas gift
Yes, I would say
or
so.
holiday gift?
I would say yes. I would say yes. Also, out of just being nice, you know. One thing, a mistake a super makes, because he wants to be kind and helpful, somebody gets locked out and they don't have a key. And then the super able to maneuver the lock so he can open the door for them. It's a big mistake. You should let that tenant or resident call a locksmith. Don't do it. Because as soon as you do it and they see that you did it, then the word will get out that you are able to open the doors without a key. And if somebody loses something or goes missing, you're a suspect.
Not only that, but they'll call you at any hour of the night.
Any hour of the night, and on top
That's
of
right.
it, you'll get a big thank you.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
it isn't worth it.
I had that problem.
Do
so.
not. If you have a spare key, okay. If you have a master key, okay. But do not use any device to, let's say,
Jimmy the lock.
jimmy the lock or trick the lock to open, because it's not good for you. It's
A shimmy.
It also leads me to think of situations where new supers particularly in smaller buildings that are just getting started, may end up trying to be too helpful and opening the door for someone who they believe is a resident who comes to them and says that they're locked out, and without first checking to make sure that these are authorized people. Yeah. Because that the worst thing you can do is open it up for someone who doesn't,
For the wrong person.
for the wrong person. Yeah. So it's always about checking to make sure that they're bona fide. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff here that could.
Have you ever had a situation where you came into a building and the previous super had been doing things like fixing the risers or something against code or illegal, and you had to explain to the board they should not have been doing that?
Yes. And
that's rough.
On a couple of times, but we cleared that up at the interview. And I would tell them I would not do anything against code, no matter what. If it was an extreme emergency, yes, I would have to do what I have to do. But it's only temporary until you get the plumber too. But other than that, I'm not going to do any renovations to your plumbing or electrical. Too many times we open a wall and we find supers used Romex instead of BX cable. BX cable is the only accepted conduit for electricity in Manhattan, or fixed pipe, a BMT. But you can't use Romex in Manhattan, and supers do it. Even contractors will try to do that too, just to get away with some things.
Well, it's also easier to maneuver Romex.
Yeah. What I've always said was, when there's an apartment being renovated, before you sheetrock any walls, I need to inspect it. Make sure there is no Romex, there is no PVC in the plumbing or whatever. And that usually goes well. And when those times that they have, I've requested them to remove the sheetrock.
How about, gotcha. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and that only creates a big...
How about doing side jobs in your building? Like, how do you, how have new supers?
Okay. The side jobs, you would go according to the board's protocol. If the board allows it, then okay, you can do it. If they allow it on company time or off when you're off duty, you find out which is which. And if they allow it, then okay, first come up with a price, a reasonable price, and then just do it. If you have handyman, then the super should not be doing that. The handyman should be doing it, unless the handyman don't want to do it.
Isn't that their job?
Changing a light fixture is not the job of any building maintenance worker, unless it's a rental building. But in the co-op or condo, people want new dimmer switches, they want new light fixtures. That's not what you pay for in your maintenance.
So goes back to communicating to the board or managing expectations of everyone at the building.
And coming up with a protocol, what I can do, what I can't do. Lending out ladders is another big whoop-de-doo. If you have a normal apartment, that's one thing. But when you have a 13-foot high ceilings, people don't keep those kind of ladders. And you don't want to lend out ladders, A, because they may keep them for 3 or 4 days. And number two, if somebody falls off it, there's a lot of liability. So there's a few things you could do is before you give out the ladder, you instruct the person how to use the ladder. It sounds stupid, but you got to give instructions and you got to inspect the ladder. But the best way we did it was we put 2 or 3 tall ladders in the stairwells, and we would tell people, well, we believe there's some ladders in the hallways. They don't belong to the building, but we've seen people use it, so we got away that way.
Actually, for
that sounds like a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Of course.
Well,
especially if you lend it to a contractor.
It's not our ladder, so we just told them that there may be a ladder in the stairwell, but it's not our ladder.
I never lent ladders to contractors.
Actually, Mimi, from your angle, what do you expect your super to do in your building? Like, what do you expect him to replace a faucet, and then maybe you would give him a bonus at Christmas time? Do you expect those things? Do you feel that, like, how do you go about getting things done, repairs done inside your apartment in New York City? And feel free to be transparent. I mean, look, it's a tough question because a lot of whatever you say it's not a surprise. I mean, there are so many different supers have filled so many different roles and set of expectations that it's not surprising if you were to say, well, my super did everything, because back in the days, and in the 80s, 90s, you had supers were guys that lived in the basement of a building. They came up and did the work. You gave them a tip, and they went back down, and they had basement apartments, and that's how the image of the building super was. Whatever you needed something to get done, you would have him take care of it. Of course, times have changed because the super has evolved. The role of the super has evolved into something that's a little bit more different, that requires a different set of expertise and training, and so there's a different
But you have different types of supers. I've seen supers that were very, in all honesty, selfish. Like the handyman would get a job in the building doing something, and he would go up to the tenant and say, "I'm sorry, but the handyman can't do that job. All jobs have to come through me, and I assigned them to someone, and I'm going to take this job." He would literally take the work away from the handyman. And a lot of times people renovated their kitchens and they gave away the stoves and the refrigerators. The super went upstairs. He said, "No, you can't give this to the employees. They have to go to me." And they would take them. And these guys were not very well liked.
I know guys that when the handyman went up to do a private job, handyman comes out and there's the super waiting behind the door for his cut.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, there you go.
Not all
Maybe you
supers
could
are like that.
you could be living in a building where, anything that you want that needs to get done, all of a sudden you got to give a piece of that to the superintendent. Piece of the action. Or
I had we were doing one time the window ballast in
Right.
in the building. It seems that they put the wrong ballast in the building on the windows, and about that first week, about 10 people went to the hospital. They gave their backs gave in because they put the wrong rods in. So they asked us to change the rods. So we noticed that every time we finished in one of the apartments, the big apartments, the super would show up, and he was waiting for something because he sent us up to do the job. This one time, I'm working with this guy named Carlos, and by accident, we had to work in this lady. This lady doesn't tip at all, and she had this large cactus. I mean, it must have been over 4 feet tall, and it was tied to a little string, and we had to be careful because we got caught in it a couple of times because it was right next to the window. And after we finished the windows, the super called us. "Are you guys done?" He said, "Yeah, we're about to leave." He said, "Hold on, I'm coming up to check the work." He came to get something. And as he was talking to the lady, he's trying his best to get something out of her, but she's not budging. She's not giving anything. As we were speaking, the cactus, the string came off, and it started to fall. And him, not being aware of it, tried to grab the cactus, and the cactus landed on top of him. And he was yelling at me and Carlos, Roberto, help me, please, I'm stuck. The cactus had got him all over his chest, his face, all for the love of money, because he was up there for money, and she was yelling at us to get the cactus off the guy. But
It's called karma.
yeah, it caught up to him.
So karma, or
But he was yelling his.
ethics, or I think basically, yeah.
We were laughing.
I think
Honestly, we were laughing.
for the new super, yeah, don't getting a handout, asking for a handout,
You
definitely
don't-
is not.
you don't-
Yeah,
Another mistake.
it's a huge mistake.
You don't do
and
Another mistake that supers make is moving furniture for tenants, for residents. You don't want to move furniture. Example, contractors coming to paint. It's the resident's job to move the furniture. You need to do a repair on a window unit. You need to move the bed. It's the resident's job to move it, not yours. Sometimes you feel bad for people. You know, they may be old or something like that, and so you want to be a nice guy and help. We came to a woman one time, and she had a grand piano, and it needed to be moved. So there was 4 of us, so we each grabbed a corner, and we moved it ever so careful. We were so careful. We moved it 1 foot, and the leg fell off. She started screaming,
Wow.
blah, blah, blah. And I says, no, this leg didn't just fall off. This leg was propping up it was broken before
Yeah, it
we
was
did
broken,
it.
yeah.
No,
Right.
it wasn't. No, it wasn't. So it was just a big fight. And the building paid to have the piano repaired, thousands of dollars. Plus it had to be retuned and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I had one time in the building, this lady was doing the rags. Some of the housekeepers, they washed the rags and to use them over. And the dryer went on fire. And I remember turning off the fire. And she called the tenant and informed them what happened. And he just said, grab the rags, put them in a bag real quick and run upstairs. She did that. She ran upstairs with the rags. The next day in the afternoon, he was filing a complaint that he lost 8 very expensive shirts and the building had to pay for it. Rags. We saw there were rags, but he insisted that they were very expensive quality shirts and they had to pay him out for the shirts. They'll do that too.
So, Peter, taking a step back for the furniture situation. So you're a new super at a building. You're trying to be friendly. You're trying to be helpful, and the resident comes and says, "I need you to move. I need some help moving some furniture and maybe a sculpture, an expensive sculpture. What do you do to maintain your, I guess, just a general good feeling among the residents while protecting yourself?
If the protocol says that building staff can move furniture and it'll be covered by the building's insurance, okay. But you could also get hurt moving furniture.
Yes, right.
And the tenant or resident may say, help me, but you'll be doing all the work.
Yeah.
It's not a good situation. They shouldn't ask you, but they will ask, and depending on what it is, okay, move the sofa. All right, no,
Oh.
shouldn't be a big problem unless, of course, it's a sleeper. But I had a nephew who helped me move my sofa, and he was closing the sofa, and it pinched he lost the tip of his finger.
Wow.
And the building wouldn't pay it. Oh, you were on your own time.
That's right.
Yeah, it wouldn't.
We had that happen in the building where they asked us to move the sofa. And we refused. And she said, if you don't, I'm going to call my lawyer. And my friend said, yeah, good idea. Call him. Maybe he can help you with the sofa. That's it.
You want to be helpful. You want to be good intentions, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
That's a good point. Yeah,
And
definitely applies here.
Another thing you got to be careful. I don't know. I'm pretty sure if you come across this, but you have tenants that they put in these real fancy rugs, and then if you got to do something in their apartment, they ask you, "Oh, you have to take your shoes off."
yes,
We don't do that.
Yeah, well, we have socks. There's a special booty that you can buy. You just wear it over your shoes, and that'll be that.
Yeah.
But, moving furniture for the painter, we just leave it up to the painter. Then the painter says, I can't move all this by myself, help me. So one good idea is to have the building ownership come up with some sort of consent and hold harmless form. You want me to help you with this? Fine, sign here and I can help you.
We had a lady one time in the building. She loved to read. I mean, she couldn't walk, and she loved to read. She had this big wall full of books. And when she painted the apartment, she asked the contractor to get rid of the books. She passed away. And the son said, get rid of the books. And he's looking around the building trying to find somebody. And we saw she had a big library full of books. And nobody wanted to touch it. He was giving like $150 to throw out all the books. And there was a lot of books. Nobody wanted to touch it. So the man went up with a friend of his, and his friend starts looking at the books and said, you know something? I got a friend of mine that wants to look at those books. And he went to Strand Bookstore, came back, looked the books over, took out this book, took out that book, took out that book, and he made $35,000 on the books that they were going to throw away.
It happens.
One of the last things, because we're heading into the hours, a lot of new supers come in and they bring with them a set of vendors from their old building, and that could open up
A can of worms?
well, it could open up some complications.
Issues.
So especially if the vendor is a friend of theirs or maybe even a family member, a lot of supers, resident managers in this industry have come from contractor backgrounds, and they may have family that are in contract. But what are the ways that you've seen that this has happened, backfired, and what's the right way to do it?
The right way to do it is price. And you put out bids. Okay, here's a list of items that we use: toilet paper, Windex,
Yeah.
whatever, garbage bags. This is a list, and you send it out to 3 vendors, including your favorite vendor, and you get honest replies on what they charge. And it's all about the quality, the service, and the price. So that's the way I would handle that. And that's the same thing for plumbing. As I always advised buildings when I took over, for regular repairs, I'll call your plumber. But for specific steam repairs or this and that, don't want a plumber. I need a steam fitter, and that would be this plumber that I would use. And as disclosure, I get something from him at Christmas. I get a box of fruit. From one of those companies. He sends everybody.
Harry and David.
Yeah, something like that. And it's, pears, oranges, or whatever. And that's what I get and nothing else, just in case you...
So you're telling them that this is the right person to use because...
They don't get it.
Yeah, and that you're not receiving any other benefit from them.
Kickback.
So it kind of shows that you're promoting them because of their...
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
Yes, sir.
But also at the end of the year, I always give a list of, if vendors did give me something, I would put down the vendors' names and what they gave me.
Interesting. Okay.
And I would surrender that in disclosure,
Yeah.
Most people would think that you're making money anyway. So this takes the mystique away. Now, whether that was the correct amount or whether it was a little less, I'll never say, but this is what I received.
Okay.
But no,
So it's one step to being
transparent.
transparent
as
about
much as possible. Yeah.
right. And when also I think the mistake is that when you bring in a vendor, your own vendor, the problem is that they could, of course you have the appearance that you're getting a benefit, but if they make a mistake, it goes back to you.
Yeah.
And that's a big-
It's better bring them in, but as a competitor. competitive pricing.
Yeah.
That's why they're here, and that's, you know.
So the next, I mean, a good show would be about how to do some of these things the right way. But in relation to, in regards to that, you could say, always let them. What we try to do is let them know that we're, recommending them as an outside vendor, that they should do their own vetting, that we're not connected with them other than knowing them and having worked with them in other buildings, so they know that it's completely an objective. It can't be completely objective, but it's based. Us referring them is based on our experiences with them, and also we let them know that their experiences may be different. So do their own background check just to make sure.
There are some management companies, management and owner companies, that you want something, you send in your list to management, and then they would procure it for you. There was, other than requesting it through management, it would come from whoever they chose, and that was the end of that.
Okay, awesome. I mean, there's a lot of things here that could be added to mistakes that new supers make. I mean,
what you got to watch out for is when you make mistakes, you own it and you come clean with it.
That's right.
And be done with it. You sweep it under the rug,
It'll catch up.
It'll catch up. That's one. Number two, a mistake, a second mistake, a third mistake is going to equal or leading up to a failure, and that you do not want. So learn from the mistakes and move on.
yeah, and also paying things with your own money. I mean, that's always, but that's a different.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Peter and Roberto. Thank you for listening to Good Morning Super. What's by the way, how's are we on for 2 weeks, or what's the plan there?
We should be. Yeah, we should be.
We should be okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Looks
well,
good.
Well, okay. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to follow the show and leave us a quick review.
And tell a friend.
And tell a friend. It helps more people discover the stories behind the city's buildings. And if you want to connect with us, visit sparksuper.com or follow us on social. Okay, thank you very much, and signing off.
Buenos dias, Nueva York.